and now you're at the precipice of growth. Because you know where you're coming from. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We're just logging on after fiery debate. We're logging on a little late. I'm sorry. Forgive me. And we're just talking about the fact. We're just closing out a conversation on the previous session that the application of what we're learning in this discourse, the application of the realization, of the awareness, of the higher consciousness, that darkness is not the opposite of light. That concealment of God is not the opposite of the revelation of God. It is a greater revelation of God, which means that suffering is not the absence of God's presence. It is the intensity of God's presence, as we will be learning in subsequent lessons. That realization changes everything we know about this world, about our lives, about ourselves. This is transformative stuff, right? What that means is that you approach the world with equanimity. Nothing phases you, because you know that though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. Why? For you are with me. As David says in Psalms, whether it's night or it's day, I know that I'm always in your light. If it's regular day, it's regular light. If it's night, it means it's intense light. As in the powerful analogy of the teacher and the student, teaching deep stuff to the student. The conclusion, therefore, is that with this approach, and we used examples of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Nachum Ish Gamzu in previous lessons, the conclusion of this is that your mindset changes your reality. This is the foundation of Gates of Trust, which many of us have learned together. Tracht gut wird sein good, think good, and therefore it will be good. What kind of good? Revealed good, and Gates of Trust makes that abundantly clear. I encourage you to go back to Gates of Trust, open the book, and look at what kind of good it will be. Look at it. Look at what kind of good it will be. Think good, and it will be good means revealed good. This world or the next world? This world. Revealed good in this world. What about everybody else that didn't have good results? If I was God, I'd know the answer to that question, right? I can teach you the principle. I cannot tell you every case study. This subject is too abstract. It's too intense for me to be able to say to you that I can answer you now the enigma of every human suffering in the history of the world. That would be somewhat of an ambitious task. I imagine that would probably be a class given by Mashiach himself. And I think that's going to be quite, later today, I imagine that's going to be quite the class. Can you imagine that class given by Mashiach?
The whole world will attend.
What an amazing class. And by the way, you know where that's class being advertised, by the way? Isaiah advertised that class already. Right. I want to tell you something which has perplexed me my entire life, and I struggle with it to this very day, because I still struggle with this discourse. I cannot give a sermon which doesn't apply to me. If I teach a sermon, if I speak a sermon that doesn't apply to me, then I'm preaching. If I teach a class that applies to me, then I'm teaching. I struggle with this. Don't think I'm just telling you what to do. This is my struggle. Isaiah says in his prophecy that with the coming of the Mashiach, and I believe you read this on the last day of Pesach and after, listen closely to the name of God. Which name of God, right? I will thank you, O God. Why? For you have made me suffer. That's a different one. That's a different Eidcha. When Mashiach comes, I'm going to praise you, God, for having made me suffer. What on earth are you talking about? When the Rebbe repeated these words, he was crying bitter tears. The Rebbe. But the Rebbe didn't believe Isaiah. Of course he believed Isaiah. The Rebbe was pushing for revealed goodness, that there should only be revealed goodness. Why do we have to have hidden goodness? Why can't you just reveal to us? Just reveal to us. Open our eyes. Why do we have to see hidden goodness that we have to meditate upon, that it's really good? Give me revealed goodness. Right? What is the pill that the child has to take? Why does it have to taste bitter? What happens if it would taste delicious? Right? What's wrong with that? Why do you have to give me a bitter pill to swallow? Yet when Havaya is revealed, and now we can appreciate what Isaiah is saying. As long as there's Elohim at play, I have no idea what's going on. I'm lost. But the moment that Havaya is revealed, and that is the essence of Mashiach. Remember, V'nigla K'vayid Havaya, another prophecy of Isaiah. V'nigla K'vayid Havaya, and the glory of Havaya will be revealed. V'ro kol basar, and all fleshly eyes will see. Ki Havaya diber, that the word of Havaya has spoken. The essence will be revealed. The light will shine without any concealment. Another prophecy says, and your teachers will no longer be concealed, will no longer be disguised and hidden. There'll be no covering of Elohim anymore. Will be not a wall, but a window. Right? We can finally appreciate what Isaiah is saying, because when Havaya will be revealed, then I'll be able to go back and go to that class. When we'll be talking about the class of human suffering and realize, oh my God, Hashem was with me in my darkest moments. And why did he do that? Because he was revealing to me a greater light. I can tell in a deeply personal level. Deeply, deeply personal level. I've had hard moments in my life. And in my life, obviously every person's different. I can say that what didn't kill me did make me stronger. On what level did it make me stronger? Not only in terms of my resilience, but it actually strengthened my relationship with Hashem. I became a better Jew through the dark moments of my life. And that's something for which every person has to think about in their own level. Right? It's with this introduction that we begin today's class. Because today's class is lesson 19 in this discourse. And we're very, very, very close to finishing the academic part of the discourse. We're literally at the last section of the academic part of the discourse, what I call in my own notes step 6 right now. We're up to step 6. Step 7 is already the practical, which is going to be unbelievable stuff. But in this point, we open up with a big question. Why? We understand that light and dark is the same thing. We understand that Havaya and Elohim is one and the same. We've answered our question. We understand that when God hides himself, he's not removing himself from us. He's just giving us a greater revelation. There's only hidden good or revealed good. There's only
more compact so we can.
Exactly. So that's the answer. Let's give you the answer. Let's give you the answer. And you're ahead of the game. You're so comfortable with the concept already that you're like, it's not even a question, Rabbi. You should know the reason I talk about this so much, and the reason why I review and I repeat and I discuss is because our discussions help me understand this better, help all of us visualize this better on a level of das. It's our arguments, it's our debates, it's our disagreements that help us to polish this, this blade, right? What was I saying? I understand that Havaya and Elohim is all one. I understand that God is trying to give us a greater light. But why? Why does he have to hide himself? Why does he have to hide himself? Why can't he just reveal himself to us? Why can't he just reveal himself to us and figure it out?
That's the whole point.
Just figure it out.
There's no challenge. Then we're like angels if we know already. He's revealed already.
So let me give a practical example. So you're sitting in a dark room. You're in a dark room, right? And I want to reveal to you a light. So what do? I can flick on a little lamp with lampshade. It's nice and cozy. Great. Or I could just give you 1,000 watts. Well, you're getting blinded. Now you can't see. Right? When you can't see, it's because you're getting great light. Why can't you figure out a way? Give me sunglasses and I can figure out it for starters, right? Back to I love the sunglasses metaphor. What was that? Oakley's. We're talking, this is our Oakley sponsor for the golf event. Shkayach. PWG Financial. Please patronize our sponsors. So one second, let me say this. The answer, PWG. So the answer is that if you shine the light, if you just bring it on, then we will just cease to exist. We will no longer be able to be us.
Because
we will expire from the intensity of the revelation.
Is it because of the intensity of the revelation? Or is it because that's the whole point of us being put in human form on this earth, as opposed to just being souls up there, so that we can choose, we have the freedom of choice, and therefore we can affect the world with the, speech, thought, action.
The revelation at Sinai initially was so intense that everyone.
Oh,
Yeah,
good
right.
example.
Yeah.
Beautiful example. Good morning. Have to stay strong. Truck driver. Hi, Corey, Winston, Terry, and Elaine. Yes, that's exactly a very good point. That's a beautiful point. And by the way, Tanya 36 tells us, why did God have to do that? Why did he have to give us the Torah, reveal himself, and then we die, and then bring us back to life? There's a whole discussion about why he did that in order to plant the seeds for our ability to tolerate it. So we have to experience it like a knockout blow, so that for the rest of the next 3,000 years, we could work on being able to tolerate the light. See, he gave us, he blew us away literally. Then, yeah, but let me explain this. So Andy. By the way, today's Andy's anniversary. We wish Andy and Hannah a very, very happy anniversary. Hannah, if you're watching us, we wish you much success and blessing in your marriage and relationship. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. Andy, it's like this. Andy, what's gonna happen if you eat too much?
Blow up.
Can you get sick?
Yeah.
Right, you get sick. You can die if you eat too much. Right, if you eat, just don't stop eating. Filter. What's gonna happen? You got to eat in bite-sized pieces. Why? Because when you eat the digestible, a normal meal, you digest it, and then you can live healthy. But if you keep on stuffing yourself, you're gonna do anything.
I get that. There is no need for that metaphor. One point is to say that if you have an overload, you can't handle it. Okay, that's that point. That's the overload point. But the other point is, what's the tachlis? Why are we here on this planet?
Oh, so the answer to that is, we're here on this planet in order to be unconscious. As Tanya chapter 1 tells us, we were created with our natural soul originating in klippa and superficiality. We believe in what we see. We judge a book by its cover. We don't look inside, we look on the outside, right? So now we look at this world where all that we see on the outside is everything looking godless, independent of God. So what happens now is that we live a life that is unconscious of God. Here we have freedom of choice under these circumstances, under these very specific circumstances. We have freedom of choice. We have a choice. Do we want to go to shul today? Do we want to go to the golf course today? Do we want to give charity, or do we want to spend more money on self-indulgence, right? So you constantly vacillate between these choices of selfish or selfless, freedom of choice. Hence, there's reward and punishment. With this freedom of choice, we're able to fulfill the purpose of creation, which is to choose to make for God a home in this world. We have a choice. Do we invite God to this world, or do we not invite God to this world? The ultimate purpose is that we do create a home for God in this world by inviting him in through our constant Torah mitzvahs, right? Were we to be able to experience the intensity of the revelation of the light, if God was to reveal himself up close and personal to us, without any disguise, masquerade, masks, facades, smoke screens, nothing of the above, he would just come out of the closet and say hello.
Then we might as well be up there with him.
What would happen is we would just expire. We would simply cease to be, in the same way that if you have a tiny little candle in the night, it's very meaningful. But what happens if you hold a tiny little candle in front of the sun, this far away from the sun? What's going to happen to the candle? It's like, I didn't even know there was a candle there, right? You put a candle in the middle of nowhere, bam, it's beautiful, right? But you put it in front of the sun, in front of the revelation, we lose our ego. We lose our self-awareness, which is, by the way, the sin of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The sin of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, when they became self-aware, and hence they needed to cover themselves with a leaf, right? Because they became self-aware. That was part of the divine plan. God wanted us to descend into a state of unconsciousness so that we can climb our way out of that pit over the next 5,782 years, right? So if he were to reveal himself, we would be blown away. And you'll notice this actually in the discourse. I'm not going to read it right now, but I'm just doing a little bit of an overview of the next section. At the very bottom of page 23, I'm just going to read you this particular line because I think it's relevant, very relevant, okay? Mm-hmm. So see how it goes. Okay, so when we say that God is king, When we say Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed, what are you doing? You're saying Havaya, Havaya Melech. That's what you're saying. You're not saying Elokim Melech, you're saying Havaya Melech. When we verbalize those words, you know what we're doing? We're blowing God's disguise. We're blowing his cover. We're saying, we know who you are. We know you're hiding in there. That's what we're saying, right? So we are removing the facade by doing that. How do we put up the facade? By feeling a sense of ego. Take a look at this. I'm just going to read it a little bit at the bottom of page 23. On this basis, we can comprehend the phrase, God is king, God was king, God will be king. Expressing his kingship within the framework of time, using past, present, and future tenses. That's what we're saying. We're saying within the confines of time, we know you're there, Havaya. You're hiding inside. Within science, within nature, within math and logic and rhyme and reason, we know that Havaya lies at the essence. That's what we're saying, right? This frame... Exactly. Right. This framework stems from the name Elohim. The framework of time is a product of God's disguise. It's time. It's God hiding himself. It's recurring patterns, right, of nature. That is Elohim. So this framework stems from the name Elohim. Nevertheless, we declare that it is Havaya who reigns in the past, present, and future. Similarly, all existence has its source in the name Havaya, as expressed through the medium of the name Elohim. That's what we're saying. Every time we make a blessing, think about this. Baruch atah Havaya Elokeinu. I'm about to eat a delicious brisket, and it looks to me like this brisket is cooked by, the restaurant or the caterer, and it's amazing, right? And I'm just, just indulging in self-pleasure. But when I say Baruch atah Havaya Elokeinu, I recognize and acknowledge that behind this facade, which seems so godless, so selfish, I know lies the creator of the universe, creating this at all times. God, I know you're hiding right here. So in this manner, the name Havaya is drawn down, and that's, by the way, the meaning of the word Baruch. The word Baruch means drawn down, not just blessed. In English, a weak translation. Marty's into rewriting the Siddur with me here, right? So the word Baruch, we say blessed, like Benedict, like God needs our blessing, right? Because what's going to happen if he doesn't get our blessing, right? He does need our blessing for various reasons, but the word Baruch in Chassidus means to draw down, to extend, to bring. What does that mean? Has anybody in Mirasol Country Club ever drawn down the consciousness of Havaya into Vizcaya Drive or into Andalusia Lane, right, whatever it's called? Has that consciousness been drawn down there? Baruch atah Havaya Elokeinu, within this disguise, right? So in this manner, the name Havaya is drawn down and shines within each world, and more specifically within each creation, this creation that I'm blessing, bringing it into being and giving it life. I know, God, that you're the essence of this being. You're creating it right now. But on the flip side, and this is to Andy's point about free choice, the fact that I have self-ego, the fact that I think that I am independent of God, the fact that the brisket looks like it's independent of God, the fact that I think that my money is for me, and that God, for me to give to God, would be doing God a favor. Instead of saying, the money is all from God, I'm returning God's money, and he's letting me keep 90%. Right? Instead, that's a mindset shift, right? So here's what happens. The influence of the name Havaya is expressed in the life force. For every creation feels that it is alive. The life energy within every creation is the light from the name Havaya, as expressed through the medium of the name Elohim. Let me just explain what that means. Havaya creates us, right? Creates everything in this world, right? So since Havaya is independent, would you agree that Havaya is independent? Havaya is the only thing that exists in the universe that is truly self-sufficient. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yitzur Nivra. He preceded everything, right? He's the master of the universe that preceded everything, right? So Havaya, God himself, is the only thing that is truly independent and self-sufficient. Therefore, when he creates something, just like my father bequeaths to me his characteristics, right? If my father was a good chess player, maybe I'll inherit that. And if your father was a good mathematician, maybe you'll inherit that, right? So if God is independent, what qualities does he bequeath to us, children? Independence. The fact that he's creating us at every time makes us feel like we're independent. However, instead of recognizing that that is the independence of our Father, the concealment of Elohim, the garb, the mask, makes it feel like I'm independent on my own accord instead of realizing the independence of my source, of my origin, of my father, right? So when we experience a state of ego, that is the expression of the disguise of Elohim, of God hiding himself. And it's only under those circumstances that we're able to truly operate within this world with our free choice to fulfill that purpose. Because if we didn't have the garb of Elohim, and we all knew, every single one of us, I'd say, hi, I'm a piece of God. Nice to meet you. Who are you? Are you also a piece of God? A pleasure to meet you too. There would be no war, no fighting, no strife. This is why when Mashiach comes, by the way, there's not going to be any war. Why is there not going to be any war? Because just like my left arm doesn't go to battle against my right arm, that would be insane. So too, when I realize that you and I are one and the same with the coming of Mashiach, the revelation of Havaya, I'll see the word of Havaya in you and in me. I'll be like, I can't attack you. You're not an enemy of mine. You're my extension. We're one and the same, right? And so there's not going to be any jealousy or war or competition or any of the like. Because how do you resolve what?
Differences.
Why would you resolve?
In those days, we all see everything the same.
Is my eye jealous of my nose?
Even the Gentiles.
We're in the same ship.
God, so
Is the passenger jealous of the? Well, maybe the passengers are jealous of the other passengers. Yeah, that's true. First class. But seriously, I mean, when you realize you're in the same boat, we're all part of the same army here. I take pride in knowing that we have great Jewish people. I'm not intimidated by them. I'm strengthened by them. Rob,
Did I say something wrong?
Rob, you're okay with my positions? Or?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You're not upset? Okay, you're okay.
There's an appointment with a hitman.
All right, good. Anyways,
By the way, yesterday I was reading about Mashiach, and they say about the lamb and the wolf and all that living together. It's because they're no longer meat; they go back to vegetables. So therefore, the sheep and the lamb and the wolf
Nothing
will
is
not
trade.
attack each other.
There won't be trade.
It won't be trade.
that's an interesting interpretation.
Before Noah, you only could eat vegetables.
So let me just conclude this stuff, guys. What I want to say to you like this is where we're going with this, because I normally do this when I teach. I teach a new step by first describing it first. I'm just going to finish the description of the step. So the question was of this step is, why do we need to hide the light in the first place? And the answer is that the concealment is actually a revelation in slow release. And this is what Marty said, in bite-sized pieces. So the concealment is actually a revelation in bite-sized pieces. It's done in a way that will not blow away the recipient, us, but allow us to slowly digest the product. The light is there. We just need to find it, right? So in the analog, this would mean that Havaya is too powerful for us to process, and Elohim makes it palatable, digestible, but it allows us to take it in slowly. Hence, the limitation, the disguise, the concealment of Elohim isn't conflicting with the revelation of Havaya. It's just making it palatable. It's allowing us to digest it slowly, right? And at this point, we're going to be concluding the entire academia of the discourse, right? We're going to do some very nice summaries of the discourse as well in this particular part, where the Maimer itself, the Rebbe Rashab, is very granular. He's going to go through in granular detail. He's going to review everything we learn. We'll do it inside the text. It's going to be beautiful. And at that point, we'll be able to proceed with going into the practical application of the discourse, this is great because we now basically finished the academic part. So we'll be able to take it to the next level. Anyways, thank you very much, everybody, for joining me here today. Have a great day today. By the way, just to mention, it's Hey Tevis. It's the 5th day of Tevis, which is considered a very great holiday in Hasidus. To be a brief summary of what happened in 1987, someone started stealing the books of the Rebbe's library. The Rebbe's nephew. He was basically claiming that his grandfather, the previous Rebbe, was a private individual, and therefore his property was to be equally inherited by his children. So I'm the nephew. I get half of his priceless book collection. The case went to court, and the Rebbe ultimately won the case, where he argued that a Rebbe is not an individual, it's not just another rabbi, who's like a private individual. A Rebbe is the property and the possession of the entire Jewish nation. It's like imagine the sons of Moses inheriting the 10 Commandments. It's our dad's possessions. It's not your dad's possessions. This is the property of the entire Jewish nation. And he went, he sold them in the middle of the night, yeah. So there's a whole story you can read about it in their biographies on the Rebbe by Telushkin, called Rebbe, or by the few of them. So what happened was on this day that the court ruled, the Dan Natzach, the victory is with us. The court ruled that in favor of the Rebbe's position entirely. The stolen books were needed to be returned, and the Rebbe is not a private individual. The Rebbe is the property of the Jewish nation as a whole, and not to be inherited by individual children. But on a deeper level, just like we explained when it came to Yud Tes Kislev, the 19th day of Kislev, when the Alter Rebbe sat in jail for 53 days, and we said then that it wasn't just merely the people that slandered him to the authorities, that were Jewish anti-Semites, but really the Jewish anti-Semites that caused him to go to jail were the expression, as below, so above, of what was going on in heaven, that in heaven they felt that the Jews were unworthy of having the revelation of the Tanya. And that's why 53 days corresponded to 53 chapters of Tanya, at the end of which the Alter Rebbe was endorsed, validated, or by heaven. He was, there's a word for this. He was supported by heaven to be able to endorsed, to be allowed to continue to teach these profound teachings of Chassidus to the world. In the same manner, the Rebbe explained what's happening on Hey Tevis in 1987. On this day, that in heaven, it wasn't just that the nephew was being you-know-what. It was that in heaven, they were saying that the Hasidim, the Jews, don't deserve a Rebbe. Maybe they don't deserve a Rebbe, and certainly they don't deserve the books. They don't deserve the books, which is the teachings of Hasidus. The teachings of Hasidus are too powerful for them to process. Too much light for them to handle, right? And I've said this to you before, that Moses brings the Torah from heaven down to earth. The Arizal brought the secret Torah, the Kabbalah, from earth, what was in private, secret, to the public. Baal Shem Tov took it from the public and he made it practical when he started Hasidus. The Alter Rebbe took Hasidus from practical to rational when he started Chabad. The Rebbe Rashab took it from rational to granular. But it was the Rebbe who took Hasidus that was granular, and he made it personal. And I believe that the reason for Hey Tevis was that in heaven there was an accusation that this was too much light, too much wisdom, too much godliness, raw godliness, unmasked, for mankind to deserve. Much like the Alter Rebbe's Yud Tes Kislev. And it's perfectly what we're learning here, right? So how did mankind react? Here's the question. So do we say Hasidus is too difficult for us, let's not touch it? Or do we say, I can do this? Heaven has endorsed this. Heaven has validated this gift to us. Let's make sure that we approach it with caution and try to understand it. And that's what this class is all about. This class is all about having the courage to be able to reinvent ourselves, just like Rob was doing before, where he's truly being challenged, like truly on a very deep level. He's upset about it, I think. He's upset about the academic teaching here. He almost to the point of personal insult, almost. Well, we saw Mark reacted like that the other day, right? And I don't think he was really joking. The point that we truly are being challenged. This stuff is very, very profound. It's very profound. So we have a choice. You can either say, I can't deal with this anymore. It's too much for me. Or you can say, I'm going to approach this with caution, right? I'm going to make sure to study this, right? So in heaven, they wanted to block us from the study. And yet it was ultimately very validated. So our mission on Hey Tevis is to strengthen our commitment to Hasidus, to strengthen our commitment to the study of Hasidus, to make sure that we absolutely do go all the way, fulfill the purpose for which we were placed upon this earth. And if God believes that we can handle this light, then let's make sure that we give it all we've got. We've already learned the Tanya together, eh? We've learned the whole Tanya. We should do it again. And we're learning now Hasidus at the Rebbe Rashab. We should keep on studying and intensify our commitment to the study of Hasidus to make sure we go deeper, better, clearer, more personal, more das, right? Not just in our heads, but even in our hearts. More meditation, deeper davening. All right? So, l'chaim to everybody for us having been chosen as the generation that experiences more godliness than any other revelation in the history of the world, with the revelation of these teachings, that heaven has tried not once but twice, in fact many times, because many of the Rebbes were in jail, to stop us from teaching these teachings. Yet somehow we won this case. We came out landing on our feet to make sure that we don't sleep through this victory. It's kind of like somebody, a lawyer calls you up and he says your long lost relative just bequeathed to you $75 million, and you just don't bother to cash the check. That would be what this is like. You just inherited $75 million or $1 billion, and you're like, yeah, I don't know where the check is. I couldn't find it. I don't have time to go to the bank. Hello, wake up. Smell the coffee. You were born to do this, friends. Okay, let's cash the check. Take care, guys. Chaim, thank you very much for joining me here today.
That happens to be a big scam right now.
What was the scam?